Thank you for another opportunity to come together again to do the work of the Cherokee people. As we do that work, help us remember who we're here for. Help us remember the least among us. Amen.
Move on down the roll call, please.
Once again, all the new elected or the ones that have gone through re-election, if you will not only state that you're here, but if you wish to participate or know that you don't in this committee. Curtis Snell?
Here.
Bill Anglin?
Here.
Bill John Baker?
Here.
Jack Baker?
Here.
Julia Coates? Here. Jody Fishinghawk? Janelle Fulbright? Don Garvin? Chuck Hoskin Jr.?
Here.
Tina Glory Jordan? Present. Lee Keener Jr.?
Yes.
Dick Lay?
Here and yes.
David Thornton? David Walkingstick?
Here.
Kara Callan Watts?
Honey.
And John Masters. We do have a quorum.
You need approval for the minutes of the July 11th meeting. So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Moving on down to reports, management resources, Andrew Bruce.
Oceana God. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to introduce myself to the new council members that I haven't officially met yet. Good afternoon, Mr. Keener. Angela Drews. Business card, Mr. Walkingstick.
Thank you.
Mr. Lay. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
As always, you've got a copy of my report in your packet, and I would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Another question for Angela. Well, we're having a hog fry in Bull Hollow in October.
Yes, hopefully we get a little less humidity by that time.
Oh, it'll be cold, but then we'll be wearing sweaters.
But yes, we're on schedule for that.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
I have to tell you, new members, we have a hog fry in Bull Hollow once a year. It'll be in October this year. So if you don't know where Bull Hollow is, well, Angela draw a map.
It was traditionally a fish fry, and we enjoyed those for many years, but our fish frying crew, some of which were employees, of course, retired, and we've got folks now that cook better hog than fish, so we'll treat you to a hog fry.
Good. Great.
We enjoy you getting to come up. It's a nice opportunity. We also, just so you know, for those of you who haven't been on the Bull Hollow tour, we do like to take anyone who's interested on a tour of the Kenwood area. So just know if you're coming up that day and would like to go on a small tour of our tribal lands and look at some of the lease lands, look at the shaving mill, my staff always is more than happy to take somebody on a tour. So just let us know.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilor Kara?
Thank you. On Monday, October 10th, we'll be at Bull Hollow then?
Yes.
Prior to? Will that be in the morning then on that Monday? How are we?
Probably at 10, 11 o'clock.
11's normally what time we started the resource committee meeting. Then we ate around noon,
Right.
and you were coming back here for your other meetings. Is how you had been handling that. We just done one meeting the last 2 times.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Yes, Chuck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you probably haven't had a chance yet, but I appreciate that you're going to look into that. I can't find my email, but it was Double Creek or something in Nowata County, and
Yes.
There might be an opportunity to consider managing that recreation area, but I know you're checking into it.
Yes, sir. One of the things that I asked Pat Gwynn to look into for me is when the Corps pulled out down at Salisaw Creek Park. Of course, anytime that they deem any of their property excess, we have first right of refusal. So I've asked Pat to see if they have any interest of actually deeding that property to the tribe. If it's something, once we make an assessment from the Real Property Review Committee, if it's something they may be ready to divest themselves of.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, there's a recreation area in Nowata County, I think it's called Double Creek. The Army Corps of Engineers, I believe, owns the land, historically managed it. The city of Nowata managed it for a time, but the city, for different reasons, is not going to manage it going forward. So they're going to look into whether Cherokee Nation could manage it.
Good, great.
Thank you.
Council Lady Fishing Hall.
How did the meeting go on the two other parks, Angela?
Say that again, I couldn't.
How did the meeting go on the two other parks?
When we met last Monday regarding the Adair Park, there was still, I think, some lack of clarity between the mayor's office and the county commissioners as just exactly what the county could bring to the table as far as dollars to help keep that park going. So they met again today at 10. Unfortunately, we had a group leaders meeting with the chief, and so we didn't attend that this morning, but we did let them know that once the county and the city had come to some sort of plan as to what both were bringing to the table and what they were asking of Cherokee Nation, that it would be considered to bring before committee, because basically what they're asking for is a contribution from the tribe of money to help keep the park open. And the city, the mayor's office, had thought that the county was going to bring $20,000 to the table, and the county said they could not afford that and it wasn't in their budget. So they were going to meet on that again this morning because the mayor wasn't able to attend the last meeting. So that's how that one went. On the other two parks, we haven't been officially asked to run anything yet. As you know, Lake Uchi, that is owned by the city of Tulsa. And the way they run that park is you reserve it. It's closed during certain months of the year. They are not looking to divest themselves of the park, and so we're still in discussions with them about some opportunities there. And then, as far as we know, Salisaw intends to go ahead and run their park on their own. So until somebody asks us to come to the table on the other parks, we're not in negotiations on those at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Angela? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Real Estate Services, Linda Donaldson.
I just
Yes,
have a
sir.
question. I was just asking Tyler, does Tulsa actually own Lake Uchi? Do they take water out? Clear that up for me, because I've been told several things on that.
Well, they own the land around Lake Uchi. And I could get more information for you on.
Could you? I'd like to be able to talk to a couple of people about that, please. I promised them I would.
Okay, so who do you contact in Tulsa to speak with about that?
No, would you please prepare something or give us some information on who owns it, what land's owned, who owns the lake versus who owns the land around the lake and their agreements? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Linda Donaldson, and it's myself that's here with Mr. Keener. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Mr. Lake, it's good to meet you. And I'm the director of the Real Estate Services Program, and my report was in your packet, and if you have any questions, we're glad to answer. And I'll answer yours already. No, we haven't got a response yet.
Not even, I haven't got a response to my, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Hoskins.
If Councilor Watts is talking about.
Councilor Watts.
Thank you for yielding for a moment. I have not received a response to my letter as well. So could you kindly ask them if they'll respond to the elected official from the Cherokee Nation?
Yeah, we'll push forward on that
Thank
because
you.
we've got to have an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councilman Hoskins.
Councilman Hoskins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Linda, the community building in South Coffeyville, I had asked for a copy of a lease that was, I wasn't clear if it was being prepared or it had been prepared.
We had thought that there was one because it was basically done when community development was doing the leases to the community services buildings once those community buildings were first built. And we checked with them, and apparently there was no lease
Okay.
and never has been. So what we are going to develop now is a lease not only on the new property, but also one for, we're going to make it into one for the whole property, since there's not been a lease before. And we are currently working on that, and I believe keys were gotten to them for the building so that they'd be able to get into those and start utilizing those now. But we are working up the lease. We needed bylaws and something that showed who had signatory authority on behalf of the group. And
Thank you.
so we'll get you that one so we get that worked out.
Okay, and you're working with that community group on...
With Mr. Davis.
Right. I think they had some concerns about having gone all these years with no trouble without, to their knowledge, any sort of a lease, and I think they're concerned about going forward if it may change the way they operate. So I wouldn't think it would. But,
It really won't. It'll just spell out a little more of their responsibilities, and there won't be a charge. So it really just helps us with our liability problems of having somebody shown as in charge of that building.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Lady Corey?
Yes, Linda, would you enlighten the body as to the Man Killer Act?
The Man Killer Act. The Man Killer Act is actually what was used to be referred to as the revised 47 Act. It's the act that is being developed to request that Congress look at doing away with the blood quantum rules on Cherokee Nation, well, not just Cherokee Nation, but for the 5 tribes, to do away with the blood quantum requirement so that instead of when you reach under a ½ degree blood on your restricted land, that it would stay restricted instead of going unrestricted at that point. That we want it to remain restricted as long as it's in the family. And that is what the Man Killer Act is about.
You might also enlighten them as to where you are in the process.
Right now, a bill has been drafted on that, and it's being circulated around the 5 tribes for their approval, and they have done a resolution of the Intertribal Committee to support the Man Killer Act, but it's still under construction at this time. One of the problems has been the Oklahoma Independent Oil Association. They have been our biggest stumbling block trying to get past them, because if you can't get past that group, it basically doesn't go anywhere in Congress. So we're trying to get them to basically state that they don't have a problem with it, and once we get through that, it'll make it easier stand in Congress than it does now, because it's been before Congress back in 2000 or 2002. And it actually passed the House, and it got to the Senate, and then the Senate killed it in committee. So that was as far as it got. So we're going to make another run at it. It was called the Revised 47 Act at that time. This time we're giving it a new name, redrafting some of the issues and trying to submit it again.
And we have the backing of the solicitor's office too.
Solicitor's office has looked at some of it, but they have not fully come out and supported it yet. Yeah, and I think that's right. It'll probably have to be introduced before we can even get their backing.
Because at one time Sharon Blackwell was on board with it, and then she moved on up to Washington, but I think she's since retired, hasn't she?
I think she has.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Hoskins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And following up on that, was this known as the 5 Civilized Tribe Land Reform Act at one time? Is that
Yes,
it?
I think it was called that too at one time.
When you talk about dying in the Senate, wasn't it our Republican senators who killed it in the United States Senate?
I think that was right.
I mean, is it fair to say that they have to go to the oil producers to find out whether they can support it this time? Is that essentially the political path that we're
I
on?
think that is where it has been. Instead of what is being tried this time is, instead of trying to push it through to Congress to start with, is that if we can get past where we know the problem area is, then we might be able to move forward. But if we put it through to Congress at this point, we feel like it's probably going to hit the same block again. And if we can't get them on our side, it's not going to make it anywhere.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Lady Coates?
I had a bet with my council colleague here that this is exactly what Mr. Hoskins was going to bring up, so I only, so thank you. I only had my hand up in case he didn't, so I will withdraw.
Any more questions for Linda? Thank you, Linda.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on down to environmental programs, Tom Elkins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I've been introduced Tom Elkins, Administrator of Environmental Programs. Sir, how are you? Hello, sir. Nice to meet you. I believe you have our report. The only thing I would add that is, if you've noticed out here at the outpost, the compressed natural gas facility is coming on board. That little block building to the side of it in that grassy knoll area is where the compressors are going to be. The empty island, you might notice a little bit of concrete redone through there, is where that filling part will be. And we should be on board in 6 to 10 weeks. I'm hoping before the end of the fiscal year we'll have that going. But if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I noticed,
Yes.
I noticed that Tahlequah was selling theirs compressed gas for, I believe, $1.08 a gallon.
It was a little over $1. I was in Morris, Oklahoma last week, and it was 79 cents a gallon, that equivalent. So I don't know what...
We just don't have any cars that are ready to...
Well, we're acquiring one right now. And in our GL meeting today, I was recommending that any of the groups that start acquiring vehicles start looking at that. The vehicle we're getting is dual fuel, so it can use gasoline or compressed natural gas. So, the city of Tahlequah just bought a trash truck too, and that really helped.
Tom, what's the increase in price if you buy a car with the dual fuel?
It's
apparatus?
$3,000 to $5,000. Excuse me. $3,000 to $5,000 more up front. If you have to convert it, it's up to $15,000. So you can buy a Honda Civic for right at $20,000. You can buy certain Ford pickups with that on there for $3,000 to $5,000 more. And as we get these filling stations, I've heard you can drive all across I-40 if you know exactly where those are at and drive across the country. So I'm hoping as those are done, as the north-south corridors are filled in with those, and that we have some within the nation, I think we'll start seeing more manufacturers start putting that in their vehicles.
Well, it's saving $3 a gallon.
Whew.
As we change our cars over, we need to think about that, because that's less than a year that you probably saved that money that it took to buy the car that was the extra amount.
Exactly. And that's not even counting any of the emission issues. So it's really a good deal.
F-150s, you say?
F-150s, you can get them in that.
I'm a Ford person. Very low.
Any more questions for Tom?
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Certainly. Thank you.
Moving on down to old business, see none pending, new business. Item number 1, I'll take that. Resolution authorizing the placement of land in trust at Tillery property was just purchased. I move we should approve.
Second. Friendly, I'd like to be added on that credit. Thank you. Correct.
Got a motion and a second.
Point of order.
The chair cannot make a motion, but I will be happy to make the motion.
I'll second it.
I usually pass the pencil here. Okay, motion made by Councilman Baker. We have a second? Joe, second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, number 2 is resolution authorizing the placement of land in trust. First state, it's the old Carpenter property.
I'll make a motion to be approved.
Mr. Baker makes a motion. Is that second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Item number 3. John Baker, John?
Yes, this is the old homeland property, I believe, is Linda still here? Linda, isn't this where the court's going to move to eventually?
Yes, it is, and we'd like that up to full council, or if possible, because we'd like to submit it.
Okay. And I'd make a motion that we pass this resolution authorizing the placement of the land in trust, what's known as the old homeland property here in Tahlequah, with the provision that it would be sent to full council tonight.
Second.
Okay, we got resolution and got a motion and a second. Move to full council tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4, the sponsors David Thornton and Janelle Fulbright. It's a resolution authorizing leasing of the tribal trust lands to housing act. Jack, you want to?
I'll make a motion to be approved.
Second.
Motion second. Oh,
Mr.
yes,
Chair,
sir.
I had questions. I don't know if any of the staff could answer those today concerning this legislation.
On this housing application.
If you can answer, would you come forward, please? Thank you. So on this, does this give this individual any rights to our tribal land?
It will pass this tract of land to that applicant.
So we're giving away tribal land to
That
an
is
individual?
correct. This is part of the 350 acres that we had promised that we would give to individuals back in 1968, I believe was when the program started with the Housing Authority. And at that time, we did have legislation by Congress that allowed us to transfer the property, our USA and trust property, over to individuals. The reason why this one is coming up before the full council is because it's on a tract of land that is USA and trust for the tribe that doesn't have provisions on it that says or to an Indian as assigned. Because our other properties have that language on it so that when it's passed up for signing over, they can use that deed that says we can assign it to an Indian, but this one does not have that language.
May I continue? So will this property go out of trust once it's given to this individual?
When it's given to this individual, it will currently remain in trust. It will then be up to that individual to make application again to ask for it to go out.
Which, given our current provisions of law, means they could just take it out of trust and it would be lost to the tribe.
Yes, that's correct.
Without even notifying us, correct?
That's correct.
I understand that that was an earlier commitment, but I'm not comfortable with this, and I haven't seen the other documents and such. I don't know how the body feels, but at this time I can't support it. It's nothing against the individual, but I don't believe in giving up our trust land property to anyone. So, and I hate that both Janelle and David are out sick, but thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Linda, isn't this one of the folks that had their house built there
Yes, and they paid it off.
and they had paid their house off?
That's correct.
That was the initial promise that we made to them in the 60s when the house was built, that if you meet the obligations of paying the house off, you will have the right at some time to have this placed in your name.
That's
The
correct.
acreage that is under the house.
Yes, that was the promise that was made to them.
And we have previously done this for other applicants.
Yes, that's correct.
And there will be a few other applicants that are going to ask us at some point to adhere to the same promise that we made.
Yes, there will be others.
Because I know we have a few in Adair County too, and also in Sequoia County, and maybe a few up in Delaware County.
That's correct. We have a few that are on fee land, and that's at the Duncanville site. And we have come before the council on those individually, but those are fee lands.
This is not, they're not coming to us now asking for the land. The land was basically promised to them back when their house was built there.
That's correct. It was promised.
Okay.
Councilor Fisher.
I was wanting to know that because of the houses that I know in Adair County that we've made the promise to once they paid for their house
And they've been,
they get it back.
they did get the deed to them.
I'd like to go on record, I'm not real crazy at all about taking land out of trust, but it's the American dream, folks. When you pay off your home and you promise them something, I'd be a little aggravated, for lack of a better word, if somebody come back and told me, no, you paid it off and now they ain't giving you your home. And I've got quite a few of them in my county, Delaware, Adair. Thank you.
Yes, Tom?
I'm also not a big fan of losing any property, but on this issue, this was a promise that was originally made to these people many, many years ago by their tribe, and it was the enticement needed to get them to build their house there on that land. And now we're simply following through with the promise that was made to them, and I'm going to put that in form of a motion that we pass this on and authorize the leasing of the tribal trust land to the housing applicant.
Second.
There's already a motion.
Ownership.
There's already a motion.
Then I call for the question.
Motion, we have a second to this motion?
Well,
It's
no,
already,
got a motion, so I call for the question.
Oh, okay.
Jack made a motion for a second.
Yes, you.
The motion was for ownership or leasing? I think you said leasing.
That's how the resolution was.
Ownership.
You've got the resolution styled that way. Do you mean lease or ownership?
It says lease.
Well, if that's what it says is leased, then this may not be one of those that is,
Mr. Chairman?
See, they can do a 25-year lease and get the rehab right done.
resolutions in our packet.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It sounds like, is there any reason that this has to be done this month? Because it sounds like there's questions about even the content and a key word within the resolution.
All of it's lease. And they must be going for a 25-year lease to get the rehab work done.
Yeah, you're right. This is the lease. I was thinking that it was one of those that we were giving, but this one
Okay,
is,
we're not-
this one is a lease, and we are not giving up any land.
Okay, well that
Okay,
makes it a
okay.
whole different deal, doesn't it? We didn't have to have any of those discussions. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Linda.
So now I guess I call for the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Could I make one more comment?
Yes, yes.
Councilman Watts, it is essential that we pass these things timely, because if she's in line to get her rehab work done, then there's probably a great need to get it out there as quickly as they can. And without the 25-year lease in front of it, they can't even step foot out there to do any work.
That's correct. They won't work on it unless they have the lease in place.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
How about in the future, with all the property we're buying, we say we'll build one house on 5 acres,
Right.
and what's going to happen? Does a participant get that 5 acres, or 1 acre, or no acre?
The intent, right now, what I understand of the intent on the properties that we are building those houses on, like at the Redbird Smith site and the Guthrie site, that those properties will always be Cherokee Nation, and they will only have a type of lease on those. Sort of like a life estate type of situation, but we're working the bugs out of that so that we can get that to you. But the intent was to keep those properties still in Cherokee Nation's name.
So the
I'm gonna ask for a
testament will own the house, but not the property.
That's right, and they could even potentially sell their equity in the house. But still, they wouldn't own the land under it.
Right. Councilman Garden.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Does this need to go to full council tonight?
Yes, it would be helpful if it did.
Yeah, I make a motion to go to full council.
Second.
All in favor, full council? Aye. Opposed? Chuck, did you have a,
That was what I was going to inquire about, Mr. Chairman.
Shirley?
Could you give us a copy, I was talking to Tanya just now, of our right to entries that we do sometimes?
Okay. I'll get you
She's
one.
curious, I don't know what they are, I can't explain them.
Tell us what those are, Linda.
The right of entry is a document that we sign off on. A lot of times, we sign off on them because they are tribal land, or maybe they're a house that's not been signed over to them, but because it's still under Cherokee Nation's name, but they need to have services to the house. Like they need a septic tank cleaned out, or they need a septic tank installed, or they need a water line repaired, or air conditioning situations fixed. Then we will sign a right of entry so that these individuals can go onto the trust land to do these services. They're sort of like a service line agreement.
Easement?
They are. It's just a temporary job by job type right of entry.
Can I pull up something? I know I've had several people that, over in Area County, we have so much trouble with the land staying in the family, and we're having all the errors and getting them signed. I know several times we've used right of entries for your rehabs. I mean, your $30,000. When do we use them, when do we don't?
We use them usually like the family's in agreement that they come out. Somebody's already there. They already have a house there. They're already located there, and the family's in agreement to have them there if you're talking about a restricted tract. And then we will use a right of entry because they can't get a lease. So a right of entry will help to say that everybody's okay with you coming out here to do this service on this land. And we use them for those kind of purposes.
I know those used quite a bit over there, and I was curious about it.
Yeah, and a lot of times our departments for water and sanitation, they won't go out there without one because they're afraid that what would happen that they get out there and one other family member will jump up and say, what are you doing here? And we don't want you here. And so if they have a right of entry, that helps with them going on the land without a problem.
I've noticed that's why we use them. A lot of times it's been when we have everybody but one person signing it.
Yeah, and
That's okay, thank you.
And of course, if it's not probated, then I'm probably on the hook for a lot of those.
Okay, that's why.
Any more questions for Linda? Anybody? Thank you, ma'am. Move on down to announcements. Any announcements?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
there's a 5 o'clock executive legislative conference scheduled, been posted. However, Mr. Crittenden didn't really have any issues, so he wanted to cancel that. So, no meeting at 5.
Any issues? Anybody? Here?
Just everyone will need to take their picture, if that's been arranged, in the photographer's in the speaker's office. And I think they'll be here until we're done, right before council. So, thank you.
Thank you.
We take group pictures today,
Huh?
We take group pictures today?
It's not supposed to, because we're not fully seated, so. Yeah, as our attorney kindly explained. I'll move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Next meeting will be September 12th, 4 o'clock. Now here, Jaren, did you say? You got a second? Second.
Yeah, he
Adjourn.
is out.
You didn't read the email, so you have